Hi guys and welcome to this week's deep dive. This week we have a special guest called Jamie Williams. Now Jamie's been on my radar for the last year or so because he has released some great tricks, including Penguin's Trick of the Year. So we're going to speak to him more about that. Before we get started, just want to say thank you to everyone that joins us every week for the deep dive. I hope you're enjoying it. Thank you all for the comments as well. If you have got comments about the deep dive or want to let us know you're enjoying it, leave a comment below the video. It really does help. And if you haven't done so already, please hit, hopefully, that subscribe button and that notification bell, and you will be notified every time we go live with a deep dive or a brand new video. Also want to thank everyone for the support they gave us on Bane by Jamie Dawes. We sold out of that super quick. We have got another live launch coming up for you in a few weeks time, and this is a trick that's been anticipated for quite a while. We've had more messages about this than anything else, I think. So we'll keep you updated with that. But without further ado, let's introduce our special guest for the day, Mr. Jamie Williams. Hiya, Jamie. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, really good. Thank you, buddy. Really good. So, Jamie, your name is most probably pretty new to a lot of people watching this. But in the last year or so, you've really hit the ground running with some killer effects. So, give us a little bit about your background. So, I know you create magic, but you are a performer, so that's your core business, right?
Yeah. I've been performing magic for a long, long time now, probably over 10 years. And I I came up with the idea that when I was doing magic and I was performing, I turn up and I'd have a lot of people at the event, be like staff or waitresses or waiters or whoever, say to me, "Oh, we had a magician here last night or last week, and he done this trick and he done that trick, and it was always the same trick." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, great tricks, but I kind of want to be able to do a trick where they go, oh, I haven't seen that one before."
Yeah,
And that got me, into kind of wanting to create my own magic, and that's really kind of where my passion started to head, in the creating of magic, more in performing it, to be honest with you.
yeah, yeah. It's so. Are you a full-time pro, or have you got a day job and you go out and perform?
No, I work full time. I work full time,
Right.
and magic was a way for me to, at the time when I first got into it, to supplement my income,
Yeah.
but also, I just loved it. I found it's quite weird, Peter. I like to think of myself as a rather unique magician in the fact that I never had a magic kit as a kid.
Right.
And I know, if I go to Blackpool or any of the conventions, I hear a lot of musicians say, when I was a child, I had a Pete Daniels magic kit or a Marvin's magic. I never had any of that. My only interest as a child was football. That's the only
Right.
thing I was interested in. And it wasn't until I was in university that I went to see a movie with a few mates. And whilst we're sat there, we're having our popcorn and having a chat and messing about as youngsters do, an advert came on the screen, and it was, I don't know if you remember, it was the David Blaine one where for the
Yeah. With
car. And
the yeah.
yeah, and I remember watching him and thinking I'd never heard of him, I've never seen him before, and I just remember watching him going, "That is the coolest man I've ever seen. I want to be that man." And that was it. I had to go out and learn magic, so I didn't know how. I didn't know where to go. So I
Yeah.
went down to my local library and just said, "We've got these books of magic." And the two I found was Bobo's Coin Magic, and I think it was the Royal Road
Royal
book
Road.
as
Yeah.
well. And just studied them and studied them. And a friend of mine, well, what was a professor, but he was a friend of mine, and he said, "I'll give you a little tip." He said, "I know nothing about magic." He said, "But rather than trying to learn every trick in the book, learn one. learn it better than anybody else in the, and you learn another trick.
Yeah.
And I thought I did advice and got into magic. And then, well, I thought it might impress some girls, but that never happened. So.
Well, I tell you what, the story now isn't, your story isn't that unusual, you know, that you saw David Blaine. There's so many people that have got into magic through watching David Blaine. Now, I was a magic dealer before Blaine had his first special. And as a magic dealer, the whole magic industry changed after Blaine. Because if you think of before Blaine, we had Paul Daniels, who, you know, was phenomenal, had a Saturday night show for many, many years. We had Wayne Dobson. But magic still had that cliche of being rabbit in the hat, the top hat and tails. It still had that cliche. So I remember, you know, I was a magician, obviously, before Blaine was about, and you told people you were a magician, and I think to say it's laughable is wrong. It's not. But you were deemed to be a kid's entertainer, or, you know, you wore a top hat and tails. That's what people's perception would be. And as soon as Blaine hit our screens, younger people went, this is really cool. Exactly what you said. This is really cool. And I remember I had a full-time job. So I had Alakazam, but I also worked full-time. And I remember going into work the next day. Now, I was always the guy that done the card tricks in the coffee room or by the, you know, the water fountain where people were getting their drinks, and, or, you know, the water cooler. And I always done a couple of card tricks when I was speaking to people, and a coin trick or something like that. And the day after Blaine was on TV was the day everyone started going, can you show me something? Yeah, suddenly it become cool. So your story, even though it feels different, I think a lot of people who got into magic around the same time as you will be David Blaine. So I think the old stories of, I got a magic set when I was 5 or whatever, I think that is gonna change now. I think that the story is gonna be Blaine. I know so many people that got into magic through Blaine. You know, it's
yeah. I think as I get older, it's definitely the case.
Yeah.
Like you say, you know, as I'm growing older, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you know, like Chris Angel's another one. People go into magic because of him. And now I'm finding the more younger people I meet, it's Dynamo that got them into magic.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's certainly a pattern evolving, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, it does, and it's been really good for us. Magic, especially on TV, goes in cycles. You know, you have, and everything in TV goes in cycles, to be fair, because as soon as there's something on one channel that's getting a lot of ratings, the other channels will go, let's jump on that. Whether it's cookery, music, dancing, whatever it is, you see one that's doing well with it, the others will follow suit with TV. And magic, I think, has had a very good time over the last few years, especially when you look at what Russ Stevens has done with BGT. Before Russ started getting involved, magicians were sort of a thing to poke fun at on BGT. A magician come on, they had the clown music playing, and, you know, they tried to show where the magicians went wrong rather than showing the trick, and now it's treated with a lot more respect as well. So I think magic is, you know, more of an acceptable form of entertainment now, and people appreciate it maybe a little bit more than they did. There was a bit of a lull. So how so do you perform at, you know, the standard places, weddings, corporates, parties? So you'll go out, people can book you, you will go out and perform at these places. So are you doing 100% your own material, or do you still do the classics and Omni deck and things like that.
If I do a classic, for example, Ambitious Card Routine, it'd be my version of it.
Yeah,
So I try to put a different bit of a spin if I do one of the old classics. But the majority of it will be my own effects. And the reason I try to do that is that if I do go on and release the effect or sell it to a company such as like Artisan or somebody else, I I try to back my tricks up by saying, well, I've been performing them for years, rather
yeah,
than, oh, I came up with this trick this morning and now I want to release it. So everything that I've done, like Sticker Kicker, I've been performing that for 10 years before we released it.
right.
And it's the same if I do a lecture. I've been doing like lectures recently. I've got into that, and everything that I lecture, I haven't just sat down and gone, "Oh, well, I need to quickly do a lecture. Let's make up some effects. Let's make up some tricks." I go,
Yeah,
"No, what am I actually using, and what can I evidence to show that? Look, I've been performing this at weddings, at restaurants, at corporate gigs, wherever, and it gets a reaction. It gets a positive reaction whenever I perform it." So yeah, 99.99% of the tricks that I do are my effects.
yeah. And there's a very good point actually that I'd like to make, and that is when you create a trick to perform, it could get an amazing reaction, absolutely amazing, but it doesn't mean it's a marketable effect. There are things that we go out as pros, there's things that I've invented, and I know that I go out and it slays, it gets great reactions, but I know I couldn't market it because it's either too simple, there's nothing really to market. So being a performer and then understanding what you've got there and what can be released, that's quite a big step as well. Now I know, even
It's
though,
really
yeah, I was going to say, even though we first met face to face at Blackpool this year, I've known of you and we have corresponded in the past. And I know that you were always putting little videos up on Facebook of little performances down the pub and places like that. So, how do you know what is a good marketable effect compared to what's just a great effect for your clients?
I'm still learning, mate. I'm still learning that because I look, I've got one trick, and I do it at every event that I do, and it's by far the most popular trick that I do. It's the one trick I know I can do. Yeah, and it's that old saying of like, this will get you repeat bookings. But I genuinely do get repeat bookings from doing this one trick. But it is not marketable in any way, shape, or form because once you
Yeah,
kind of realize how it's done, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's genius, but you can't really sell it.
yeah, yeah,
So I just kept it to myself, and it wasn't until like speaking to a few magic friends, and I did a gig, and there was a couple of magic magicians at the gig as well. It was a big gig, and I performed this trick, and even the magicians stopped and went, "Okay, I give up. How the hell did you just do that?"
yeah,
And when I told them after, they were like, "Mate, that's genius. Put it in your lecture, if nothing else." So I put it in my lecture, and I did it. I did a couple. I did it at Cardiff and a couple of other places, and by far the feedback I got, just people saying, just that one trick, it's worth the admission alone. And then I did the Magic Circle lecture, and I left it out. And there were a couple of angry magicians that were saying we were hoping to see. I called it my bottle trick. We
right.
were hoping to see the bottle trick, and you didn't do it. We came just to see that, and I was like, I'm so sorry. So I put it back into my lecture now, just because people
Yeah,
were angry at me. Uh, but it's hard. Like I've got a new trick that I'm working on now. That funny enough, I was going to message you about.
hmm,
And again, it's a trick I've been doing for a couple of years. But is it marketable? I don't know. I tend to kind of go by the advice of people like yourself. You've been in the business a lot longer than me. You know what sells and what doesn't.
yeah,
The only advice I do give people is if one company or one person says no, don't be put off.
No.
because Sticker Kicker was turned down by one company, well, by a couple of companies, before Penguin picked it up,
Yeah.
and then it won the Trick of the Year. So don't always be.
There's
Sometimes a no is a no, and you can see, yeah, okay, fair enough. But other times it's like, no, I'm going to push back on this because I think this might be a good trick.
Yeah, and there are from a dealer's point of view, um, and we always say this: if we turn something down, it doesn't mean automatically it's not a great trick. It could be anything. It could be that we've got something similar or in the same vein or something coming out in the near future. It could be that the manufacturers we would use for that type of effect are already tied up with working on 10 other effects we're bringing out. It could be that it just don't suit our style for our next year. So there's loads of reasons, and you made a good point. Don't be put off by the fact that someone turns it down, because there are 100 reasons why a company will say thank you, but it's not for us. And that's very rarely, I mean, occasionally it will be that we just don't think it's marketable. But most of the time, there are other reasons for it. And they're more reasons that, it's not that it's not a good trick. It's just that there's something else that's stepped in that's making that not an attractive offer at this moment in time. So yeah, you're quite right, don't be put off. If you ask 100 companies and they all say no, then maybe rethink it. But there'll always be someone, because even with Sticker Kicker, to be fair, it's quite a simple effect. And when you look at a gimmick, you go, that's quite simple. But it's not a simple gimmick. Getting those, I don't want to say what the method is. Well, I can. It's called Sticker Kicker. Getting the stickers made is not easy. Getting them to look that good is not an easy thing.
I've got to thank Roddy McGee for that, because I'll give Roddy McGee a shout out. He worked his butt off getting this made, to the point where I think anytime I messaged him, I think he was dreading it. But he went above and beyond. He really did. And this would not have seen the light of day if it wasn't for Roddy and the work he put in. So I'll forever be grateful to him for this.
Yeah, and Roddy's a genius. I mean, he's had some great things out like Little Door, and he's a very, very good thinker. Very, very good thinker. So recently, you've bought a couple of items out with a friend of mine, Matthew Wright, and you had Celebrity.
Yeah.
You also had, now I'm not aware of this, but when I was talking to you about releases, you mentioned something which I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of. Kung Fu Cap. I presume it's a bit like the Kung Fu coin, is it? Or Karate coin?
Yeah, that was with Penguin and Roddy McGee, funny enough. So I was messing about, and I love the moments between magic tricks. So and what I mean by that is like when you say to somebody, right, sign your name on a card, and if you had a wedding and they're writing your name, everybody else is just kind of sat there waiting or stood there waiting, and I love those moments. I love to do something messing about, because that's my kind of like humor. I've got like a weird sense of humor.
Yeah.
So I came up originally with the idea of when they gave the pen back to hold the pen lid, and just as if I'm recapping it, but accidentally puts it through the side of the cap, and then go, and just give it off to somebody.
Yeah.
And I showed Roddy it, and Roddy fell in love with it. He thought it was really funny. But funny enough, he said, I don't think as it is, it's marketable. He said, I think we need to do something more with it. And he went off there and he came up with a different routine of, very similar to the Kung Fu coin, where you throw it up and you pierce it in there. And then we released it together with Penguin. And I got to be honest, it's one of those tricks. It has, it's not going to revolutionize magic. It's just my take on an old effect. But when I performed at a wedding, I'll have a couple of Sharpies in my pocket and I'll give a pen to a couple of people and I'll play a game with them. I say, look, you've got to put the lid on the bottom, you've got to do this, you've got to put it on the head, you've got to do a little chicken dance. And it gets the whole table involved.
Yeah.
And they're all laughing and joking because they're trying to like keep up. And then at the end, I say, I'll throw it up and pierce it. And obviously, that's how I pierce it,
Yeah.
recap it. And I obviously pierce the lid and go, we just give it off to somebody like that. And it's a nice little opener, like it introduces you to the table, gets everybody involved. But I don't think it's very well known. I don't think Penguin did a lot to push it. But it's a fun little trick, and I like it perform.
Yeah, and I like things like that. I've mentioned it before. Incidental magic, I call it. And it's something that happens during a bigger routine, but it seems like it's just happened. And, you know, someone that's great at this is Etienne Pradier. So during a card trick, the bottom will fall off of a wine glass, something else will happen. And it's not the trick. It's not the trick he's doing. It's just these weird things happening around him, you know. And I like things like that. I like bits that you could throw in. A lot of times I would perform Sharpie through card as an incidental piece of magic. So I'd get them to pick a card and say, you know, sign it on the front, not the back. So if you sign it on the back, the pen goes through. And then it's a moment where I go, what's just happened? I didn't make a big thing of it, and I don't refer to it again. But it's this incidental thing that in their mind they go, what just happened there? And I think things like Kung Fu Cat are great for those little incidental bits where people go, did he just put his finger through that? Yeah. And it's great. I love things like that. Now I watched I don't watch very many actually, but I watched your Magic Circle lecture. I really enjoyed it. I mean, you could see that your ideas are great. They're different and commercial, and that's what we look for in a good lecture is stuff that you go, that's a neat idea. Whether you run with it 100% the same or whether you put your own take on it, but it's those clever little quirky ideas I think are really good. So if anyone is a member of the circle, go and check out Jamie's lecture because it was a fun one. And
I had a great time doing it. I think one of the best things of that night. And funny enough, I bumped into her in Blackpool, but thanked her again. But after the lecture, I went down to have a drink and wet my whistle because my throat was dry. I was so nervous.
Yeah.
And Faye Preston come over there, and she said it was one of her favorite lectures she'd seen. She said because her words were, you could tell I was a real worker.
Yeah.
And she felt that everything in there was a worker. You could quite easily just go off and either adapt it to your own style or do it as was. And that made my night, I say now, I've got to be honest. And when I bumped into her again in Blackpool, she basically repeated it. And I was smiling for the rest of the day. I won't lie to you.
Well, a compliment like that from someone like Faye, who's been there and done it, and when it comes to legendary workers, there's not many above Faye Presto, is there? I mean, she's a worker, 100%. So you've just actually released a brand new effect, which we're going to watch the trailer for now. And this is with Matthew Wright. So is this your second effect with Matthew or your third?
So we had Celebrity. This is the second one, but we have got about 2 or 3 more coming out together.
Right.
And I spoke to Matt just after Blackpool, I think it was, about one trick we're hoping to get out soon. It's going to be based around movies and cinema and stuff like that. But he did say, I sent him a couple of effects of ideas of mine, and he said, well, I want to get all of these out this year.
Right.
So 2 out at the moment, with possibly another 3 or 4 to come.
Brilliant. Okay, well let's take a little look at the trailer, and then we'll come back and we'll speak a bit more in depth about it, and you can, tell us how you perform it and things like that. So this is your brand newest effect. It's called Star Draws. Here we go.
Oh, ricordo. That is bizarre. Ricordo.
No way, you're joking.
You're joking.
Oh my God, oh my life.
If you like easy to do, hard hitting visual magic, you're going to love Star Draws. The spectator has a free choice of one of 6 different coloured crayons. That crayon then magically transforms into what they're thinking of. You don't need to be a Master Jedi, but you do need a basic understanding of how to use the Force. Created by Jamie Williams with some extra tips and performance routines from me, it plays brilliantly for young and old. Super simple, super powerful. Star Draws is something that you can pick up and put straight into your repertoire.
So, Star Draws. It's great. Really good. So, Matthew, I interviewed Matthew. He's coming on in a later episode. And he showed me the prototypes. They had literally turned up in his office. I think it was during our interview. His wife came in with the parcel. So he opened them up and showed me. The gimmicks look great. They look really good. You gave me a set of Blackpool as well. They look really, really good. And the fact is, you get multiple gimmicks, different ones in there. So you can literally perform this at every table with a different outcome.
Yeah.
If you wanted
that's
to.
That's what I wanted. That's one of the things that I said when I came up with this was one of the feedback I had from celebrity was it was just the one Batman key.
Yeah.
And I get literally messages every week saying, is it going to be another one? Is it going to be another one? So I said to Matt, with this, I want multiple different revelations. And at the time, we kind of talked about it and like what characters and what we were going to go for. And I'm a massive Star Wars fan. I go to the comic conventions and everything. So yeah. I was like, well, look, I've been to a convention, and I've seen this crayon. This is where the trip came about. I was at a comic convention, and there were all these different artists and everything. And one of these artists had these crayons that she sculpted herself, and I was just like, wow, they are. I love them, and I've got this weird thing where if I see something, I go, it's a magic trick there somewhere. So I kind of came back and I googled crayon art and I contacted Matt and said, have a look at this. I've got an idea. I'm going to go off and I'm going to perform it and get some prototypes made and I'll keep in touch. So it took a while because, like I said, I like to go out and road test everything and perform it for a while. But Matt fell in love with it, thankfully. And Matt's been so supportive of me and just an amazing guy. And I can't really take any credit for this because Matt went off and he made it. He got the designs made. He did all the work really. I'm kind of standing on the shoulders of giants, if anything. But I love it. I perform this. I keep it on me, and yeah, I mean, if nothing else, I'm actually going to get these framed, just because I like how they look.
Yeah, they look great. I mean, my mind is already sort of coming up with ideas, and I think I'm not sure. I haven't watched your explanation, so I might be saying exactly the same routines. Correct me if I'm wrong or if I am. But one of the ways I can envisage um, performing it is to have like a little Sven book, a false book, and on each page just having a different character from various movies and animations, and saying what I want you to do is open the book to any page. In front of you there's like a box of crayons. If there's a certain color sort of related to your character, just pull it out of the crayon box. If there isn't, you can grab anyone. Now what I would do is I would force Yoda at that point. They've got a pad, and I'll say, look, do me a favor, in the selected color, I want you to try and draw it. We all know you're not going to be Picasso, or you might be. It's, we can't make that judgment until we see the picture, but draw who you're thinking about. They draw Yoda, and now I say, look, this is really strange. Now you chose, and this is while their back's still turned, and I can say to them, look, you chose any character, yep, and you chose a color that you related to that character. Is that right? Yeah. Well, before I started, in my pocket, I've got one crayon. The crayon I chose was the color green. Can you show everyone what you've got? Green. And I turn around and say, who is it you've got? They say Yoda, and you say, that's really strange. Watch this crayon. And now I do whatever to reveal Yoda on it, tell everyone what you see on the crayon. And I think it would play great if you would do it like that. You could actually do this, even though it's small. You could do it on stage.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah, we'll stick it on the download later.
Yeah, well, you're more than welcome. I literally just thought of it now when I was thinking, how would I use that? And in a close-up environment, that would be a perfect thing for like mix and mingle. Get a group, have a little pad, have a box of crayons, full some, Yoda or something else that you can easily represent with a color. And obviously Yoda's the easiest, isn't it? Everyone knows he's just green. So,
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. And these sort of novel reveals, I think maybe the first one I saw was Lolly Hero, that went down this sort of natural object taking form of a prediction. But I think they're very good for both children and adults. I think they're very good. So
Yeah, I love Lottie Hero. Steve Rowe is a friend of mine, and I remember him showing that to me a while ago, and straight away I was like, oh, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I agree. I love all types of magic. Don't get me wrong, but there's something about just having something that changes into something. I think it takes me back to the movies of like, it's the magic of it, and to be able to hold a random object like a lollipop or a key or a crayon. And the reason we chose crayons was, again, because obviously I saw it, but it takes me back to my childhood, and like I've got a little girl now, and she like obviously uses crayons, and it's quite funny because when I perform this, the excitement, not so much from children, but from adults, it is a crayon.
Yeah.
It really evokes a memory of their childhood, and they can't wait to grab onto the crayon.
Yeah.
And you'd always have somebody making a joke about like, oh, they still use crayons now, how to use a pen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's just a fab thing, and we've got some great routines on the download. Matt Wright has come up with a great one with a book where he says, for example, like, you're gonna think of a movie character, it's gonna be green, and all that. And then he reveals his thought, and he pretends to draw it, and he reveals it as Kermit the Frog. And he says, no, but I think before he says, like, this person's small, aren't they? Yeah, small. they talk quite funny. Yeah, they're green. Yeah, it's Kermit the Frog. And then of course he reveals the crayon, and I love that routine. I think it's so good.
Yeah.
I've been doing this with a couple because of COVID and that with a couple of Zoom meetings where I say like send the thought to the nib of the pen, and they say yeah. I said don't send it to the end of the pen, send it to the nib, and they say yeah. And I say okay, just concentrate on it, and I'm gonna heat my fingers up with a lighter and just concentrate, and then I just reveal what it
Yeah.
is, and that's been going down really well for online ones. But I know Magic Singh I spoke to him the other day, and he said he's working on one to try to get the silhouette. So he's going to shine the light on on his phone to say that there's a try on. I'll think of the character when he signs it back up. He's going to try to get it so that the silhouette is of it. I don't know
Nice.
if he's managed to do that yet, but I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, that's great. And the other thing is, I'll just throw this out because once again, I just thought of it. But if you were doing the routine I just mentioned, it makes perfect sense. Once they've done their drawing, you say, okay, hold the pad. In fact, you can put the crayon down, but hold the pad up to your chest. Now you walk over to the table, pick up your pad, but as you're doing that, you just switch the crayon for now the Yoda one. There's no heat on you at all at this point because he's already done his drawing. No one cares about the crayon. And then when you reveal it, you say, now a lot of people say this is mind reading, but I'm going to tell you now, it's not mind reading. This was influence. You've been influenced 100% of the way. In fact, do you remember that crayon you picked up at the beginning? Did you notice anything weird about it at all? No. Take another look. Tell everyone what you see, and when they look at it, it's Yoda. And now you've got this really nice bit, and the heat will definitely not be on you because they've already done their drawing.
Yeah, they don't look at the crayon at all.
No.
There's a on like the downloads and that put in a couple of full performances, and there's a performance in me of doing this, and it's done with a business card, and I just say I'm gonna like try to read your mind, and I take the crayon and I pretend to draw, and I hold on to the crayon and the business card, and I'm like just hold on to that, and I just pass him off the crayon and say this is not even relevant. And I said, just concentrate on the card. And you'll see the blonde lady, and she's literally just stood there holding onto the crayon, looking at me. And then when I reveal it, it's actually I've drawn a stick man, but in the colour of I think it was C3PO. And I said, oh, and of course it gets a laugh because it's just a stick man. And I go, no, I said to you I was going to use the crayon to reveal it, and you're holding onto the crayon.
Yeah.
And you see in the trailer, so there's no way, and she completely freaks out at it. But you're absolutely right. Nobody pays attention to the crayon because
No.
It's weird. It's a weird thing to be having, but nobody questions the fact that you're using a crayon. You just happen to have one.
No, I mean everyone knows what a crayon is. It's and they're not going to question it at all.
No, and I mean I keep the black one. So in my wallet, because I've got a black wallet, I keep the Darth Vader one in my wallet, and that just basically goes in like the bill section.
Yeah.
And I just have that. So it's basically something I've always got on me. And if anybody wants to see the trick, I go, okay, yeah, and I'll say, look, and I'll have to still false bag on my phone or something like that. And it's just, it's a nice little thing. You fit in, you don't have to carry all six of them. You just put one in your wallet. And away you go. And what I like about the Darth Vader one is like the end of the thing looks like the end of the try-on until you turn it around and then you can see it.
Yeah.
So until you turn it around, you don't look as it's Darth Vader.
Let me. I'm going to bring you up full screen so everyone can see it. Yeah.
See if I can hold that up. So that's just thing. It's not until you turn it around that you can see the face of it. So that's why I carry the Darth Vader one with me. I think everybody would have their own favourite character. I know Yoda or Baby Grogu seems to be the most popular one at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's great, any time you can find something, this is a tool, this is a reveal. How you get to that point, we might have people watching this now that do a big mentalism routine, and they're looking for that, once again, that little moment that's going to happen somewhere. Or when you're building up that multiple reveal, when you're going, and this could have happened because of that, and have a look at the crayon because of that, and look at this because of that. It's whether you want to use it as a standalone routine or a little bit of business, they're great little reveals that are interesting, different, and magical, because you can, like you said, you can show the crayon and change it, which is nice, or at least they believe that's what's happening.
Yeah, and the way it's been designed, I can't give too much away, and
No.
I don't want to get into trouble. But the way it's been designed, with certain bits that kind of attract and detract. You can show the crayon as if it's a completely normal crayon, just through your hand. You can show the front and the back of it, and then when you do the reveal, it's like, well, no, I just seen the crayon and he actually switched it, so it's yeah, I'm proud of it. I've got to be honest. Matt's worked really hard on these, and I'm lucky that Matt wants to work with me. And the same with Roddy. I'm lucky that Roddy wanted to work with me. And it's funny, like somebody the other day said, "Oh, I'd like you to become an overnight success," and I was like, "Yeah, it's taken 10 years to become an overnight success."
Yeah. I get that 100%. I know how long you've been trying to get products out and working on stuff, but people only see, the moment you get your first one out. But yeah, you have worked very hard to get your products out, and rightly so. You believe in your products; they're great products, and you're getting the attention and the respect you deserve now. So congratulations, mate. I think I think it's good and well deserved.
Thank you. That means a lot. It really does.
So anyway, Jamie, we're coming up to the end. I've got to apologise. My watch was going off. It's like I turn my phone off and then the watch goes off. Turn my watch off, something else will start buzzing. But we're going to wrap this up now. I want to thank you very much for joining us on the deep dive. Obviously, when your next product comes out, we'll get you on again to tell us a bit more about that. But I wish you every success with your creating, your performing, and of course with star draws. I know, sticker kicker, trick of the year. I mean, that's not an easy thing. I saw who you were up against this year as well. I
still can't believe that. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I was surprised to be nominated. Honoured to be nominated, obviously, but surprised. And then when I saw who I was up against, and so some of the magicians I look up to, people like Craig Petty,
Yeah.
And I thought, well, just to be in their company is something I'm going to bask off of for the rest of my life. So when they said I'd won, it's quite weird. I said I got the call and said, "Oh, congratulations," and I was like, "No, I'm awake. I'm definitely awake." It's so yeah, absolutely honoured. I'll be honest with you, like sticker kicker is something I've been working on for 10 years. I call it my baby.
Yeah.
And it's one of those tricks where people who perform it will say, "I absolutely love it. I love this trick."
Yeah.
But then like other people like Nick Nicurpo and Eric Tate say, "I absolutely love the trick," but they find that when they're demoing it, it's kind of like, no, you need to watch it before you make your mind up on it.
Yeah.
So I think it's got that kind of thing about it, but I'm just glad. Like, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, and that is because it's a worker. It isn't, it's not an electronic device. It's not a flat card, and I think a lot of magicians, buy things because they want to know how it's done. Now, if a magician watches a video and goes, "Oh, I know how that's done," a lot of people will think, "Okay, I know how it's done, so I won't buy it, which is a little bit odd because we are buying things to go out and perform. And sometimes you do watch something. When I watch a trick, if I know how it's done, it doesn't bother me. All I look at is how will my spectators react to this. And that's the thing. Sticker kicker is a very simple concept. Very, very simple, but it slays. It's a good working effect. And that's why sometimes it's very hard to release working material, like real working material that has got really a very simple gimmick that magicians can work out. Lay people won't have a clue. Magicians can watch trailer and go, oh, okay, yeah, so I can see what's going on there. But you should never make your judgment on a trick depending on what the gimmick is. You should make a judgment on what you think your audience is going to feel about that routine. And it's so quirky. Sticker kicker's so quirky, and you know it's a worker. It's going to get great reactions.
It's been surreal. I think I'm riding the wave at the moment, so I am waiting for the sharks to come in. But it's been surreal, and to have people, like some of my magical heroes in Magic, but to have one of them, Craig Petty, come up to me and say he uses it in every gig he does. It's surreal to because I've been using his tricks since and I've used his tricks over the years, but to hear somebody who I look up to turn around and say, "Well, I'm actually using your tricks," it's just mind blowing. And I don't think, like I said, I'm riding the wave at the moment. I know I'm not going to be up there for long.
You keep creating workers like you're doing, and you'll still be up there, mate. So, and I will say, like on a final thing, it was Craig that put me on to Sticker Kicker. It was Craig that rung me up and said, "Have you seen this?" And I went, "No." And he goes, "Well, you need to check it out. It's brilliant." So, he weren't paying you lip service. He was the one that told me to go check it out. So he does use it, and he loves it. So, mate, you've done exceptionally well for yourself with your releases. I know you've got more great stuff to come. So, I think that the sort of attention you're getting is very well deserved. So well done. So we're going to wrap it up now, Jamie. I know you've got things to do, but thank you so much for joining us right here on the Deep Dive. And we look forward to seeing you again when you've got something new out.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot, mate. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us right here on the Deep Dive. Thank you to my special guest, Jamie Williams. You're going to be hearing a lot more about this young man. He is coming up with some great working material. So go check out Star Draws, sorry. Go check out Sticker Kicker. And if you can find it, check out Kung Fu Cap, because I'm going to be looking that one up because that slipped right by me. And Celebrity, of course. So thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't done so already, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that notification bell, and then you will be told every time and notified every time we go live. And please let us know what you think of the videos down below. Your comments really do help. And if you would like me to interview anyone in particular, please let me know in the comments. Until next week, my friends, I'm Peter Nardi. This was the Deep Dive. Have a great week. See you next week.